Welcome to the Don't Be Ridiculous podcast. It's a Sunday afternoon, a little after 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So, Clark, we got game one of the finals in the books, game two tonight. Whole lot of basketball talk going on, and it's been fascinating not only from watching playing, the actual playing of the basketball, but it's been interesting from a perspective of watching how this is consumed by everybody. And I just find it interesting that we were talking. Well, we'll start with the Heat are in the finals. I mean, that's pretty awesome. For this team that that they don't have they certainly don't have the depth of talent as some of the other teams, and the way the Eastern Conference was talked about. There are three teams in the Eastern Conference that are supposed to be awesome, and the Heat are the team that's left standing. I think that's pretty fascinating. And you and I have talked about this. Regardless of what happens in this series, it's a hell of a job by Miami to win that series that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I think the let's be honest here. So they get up 3-0. Game 4, they clearly didn't. They kind of took their foot off the gas. Game 5 in Boston. Okay, Boston's trying to extend the series. Game 6 in Miami. Miami, it was close. It was relatively close throughout, and then Boston got ahead, and then Miami came back and just about had the game won, and then just kind of a miracle play. Boston wins Game 6. And then then everyone's like, oh, well, I mean, first of all, when they got up 3-0, people were still like, I think, Boston might be able to come back. Then they win one game. Yeah, Boston's going to come back and win. Like, Miami's not going to win the series. Boston's going to win, And, and then you get to Game 7, and Miami just kind of kicks their ass. I mean, it's just it was kind of funny how everybody was just like, oh yeah, clearly the Celtics are going to do it. I mean, it's never been done before, but clearly it's going to happen this time. Which again, I'm a little mad at myself because I had said before that like if you're approaching a series and you're wondering if a team's going to come back from down 3-0, you should doubt that it's going to happen until you reach the fourth quarter of Game 7 and the team that was down 3-0 is in the game or in the lead. Okay, and I sort of started to doubt that Miami was going to win the series. So, shame on me. I didn't stick to what my philosophical outlook on the whole being down 3-0 thing was. So, but
yeah, what baffled me was like I before the series, yeah, I thought that Boston would probably win. I thought that Boston had a little bit better of a team, but the way that it was being talked about as if Boston just got way more talent and the series isn't even going to be close just blew my mind. It's like how we've watched the Celtics team continue to disappoint you, and they continue to self-destruct in big moments, but yet somehow they're getting all of this credit that they haven't earned. So it just kind of blew my mind that people were like, Boston's going to win, like it was going to be easy. And I was just like, no. And I said before the series, I said on our podcast, Boston should win the series in 5, but they won't. I said they absolutely won't because they will throw away games. And then once Miami was up 3-0, I'm like, Miami's going to win. There was no part I was worried when it got to Game 7, but there was no part of me that was like, oh, well, the Heat. I thought, once they're up 3-0, I'm like, there's no way you're sitting here picking the Celtics, and I don't care that they had won 2 games, and especially after the way that they won Game 6.
Right.
So I was looking at Game 7 like, look, the Heat play well, they'll have a chance to win, and let's see what. And you can't trust what you're getting from the Celtics.
Yeah,
you can't trust what Boston's doing. So it blows my mind looking back at some of the video clips. I sent you that YouTube video about the Heat fan club keeping receipts, right? So it's everybody picking Boston basically. And it just kind of blows my mind. It's like, the series isn't even going to be close. It's just kind of like, so you guys really have this much faith in Boston? Really? Like it just like, and we've talked about this before, but Yes, I understand. Boston has a lot of talent. I get, first of all, the talent that Boston has is overstated. Like, it's two guys that have elite talent. The rest of it is just role. They're role players that could play on just about any team. There's nothing special about the rest of their roster. So that I think is overstated a bit. But we've seen this act before. We've seen the Celtics do this. Like, it took them 7 games to beat the Heat last year. They almost lost, and the series could have gone either way. And it was a series where it's like Boston had a 3-2 lead and like lost game 6 at home and then almost lost game 7. So I just I'm impressed. I'm a little surprised the Heat won, but I'm not surprised that Boston shit the bed.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole talent thing, that was really dramatically overstated. I mean, before the series started and throughout the series, it was dramatically overstated. And look, I understand the argument that on paper Boston's the better team, but you have to play like you're the better team, and they consistently don't. They're screwing around on offense. They're not playing the kind of defense they were playing last year. So they've got a rookie head coach who's clearly, it was clearly out of his depth. I mean, clearly he struggles to make adjustments. He doesn't call timeouts. Like, that's pretty obvious. So I just didn't understand. Like, people were just so far. No, Boston's going to win, and they were just like so, arrogant about it. Like, they were totally sure that's what the result was going to be. So yeah, that was over the top and pretty ridiculous.
And you would have thought after what happened last season that would have ceased at some point. You would have thought that people would stop making excuses for the Celtics and stop saying things like, well, but if they just don't turn the ball over as much, or if they just stop making stupid mistakes, or if, this and this and this happen. And it's kind of like just like you said, no, that's who you are. This is who the Boston Celtics are. This hasn't changed. They've changed coaches, right? They've tried adding some more players. Like, it hasn't changed. They still do the same stuff. And the difference is with Boston last year versus this year is this year's Boston's defense isn't as good. So the thing that they could hang their hat on to keep them in, to help them when their offense was struggling, they didn't have it anymore. So, but, well, listen, that being said, I couldn't have seen this performance by Caleb Martin in this series coming. No. I wasn't prepared for it, but am I surprised that somebody on Miami stepped up? No. Because
well, the other thing was, like, they were talking, the Tatum injury at the very beginning of Game 7, some people were like, oh, well, I don't, that might have affected the outcome. Okay, wait a second. In the past 2 seasons, the Miami Heat have played the Celtics 14 times in the playoffs. Okay? And Miami is, 7 and 7. 7 and 7. Okay.
7 and 7. Both 7-game series, one team, one each.
Yeah, 7 and 7. So, why am I supposed to, like, all of a sudden think, well, that one injury, that changed? It's like, maybe, but I mean, again, we'll never know. It's a hypothetical. But I just thought that was a little ridiculous, too. It's like, even if he played the first 3 games of the series. And they lost the first 2 games at home. Like, what? Why am I supposed to go, oh, well, in Game 7 that happened, so that means, well, that Miami shouldn't have won the series. Like, what?
Not to mention the fact that Tyler Hero and Victor Oladipo have been out for Miami the entire playoffs. So, I mean, it's not as if there aren't injuries. So let's we'll go back to Boston in a second because I want to talk about their offseason outlook. But so the Heat coming into the series. Look, both you and I think we both had Denver in 6. We both think that. I mean, I just think Denver's got everything going right now. I picked it in February. I think they're the best team. And, I was holding out hope that maybe Milwaukee would be their equal, but once Milwaukee got eliminated, it kind of sealed it to me for that Denver's the best team. And what's funny, Clark, is all that stuff we talked about Boston, Denver doesn't seem to get any of that credit. They get no credit for going to the conference finals in the bubble, right? Even though the Heat and the Nuggets are in the finals right now, they get no credit for that. They get no credit for being the number 1 seed, for being the best team in the West the entire season. And it's just this constant barrage of people picking against
Jokic
them.
doesn't seem to get credit for getting the first two MVPs. I mean, they just kind of gloss that over. He's averaging a triple double throughout the playoffs. Like, again, I'm not saying I'm like some Denver fan, but I mean, come on. Like, can you guys just like be honest about what we're watching? Like, they're clearly the best team in the league this year. Like, it's not even up for debate.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before, and it's kind of funny, and it's like Denver's complaining, like we have two teams in the finals, Clark, that complain they don't get enough respect.
Yeah.
So, which is hard to imagine in an NBA finals, but this is kind of the way it works. Denver's the team nobody's talking about. They're not in a major market that is known for having a great NBA team. And this is kind of how it works. In every round in the playoffs, you saw this, right? Everyone had Phoenix as the favorite against them. When they play the Lakers, it was basically 55-45. Denver was barely favored. And then they swept the Lakers. And so it's kind of like, oh yeah, wow, but Denver's finally. We just realized Denver's really good. Listen, I know that people who follow basketball intently, they know. Real basketball fans know, but I'm just blown away by the fact that this sports media who covers the team, they're supposed to help us, right, to understand what's going on. And we'd rather talk about LeBron saying nebulous things in press conferences than an actual good basketball team. I understand, by the way, I'm not complaining. I understand how the media works. I get it.
Yeah.
But then you can't come to me and claim that, oh, we given Denver plenty of respect while you're talking about the Lakers after they get swept.
Yeah.
It can't be both. It can't be both things.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just and you're listening to certain people. Now, again, it is the media, and it is somewhat of a clown show. So when Skip Bayless is saying the Heat are going to win the series, and he's explaining why, you can kind of go, yeah, I can poke holes through that argument just easily. When Nick Wright's doing it, again, these media people can claim they're saying stuff they really believe in all the time, but that's bullshit. They're not. There's no way that people will believe some of the stuff like, well, Miami's going to win because they've been knocking on the door. Denver hasn't? Like, what?
Right.
I don't, that doesn't make any sense to me. And, like, Miami's all of a sudden going to get taller? Like, what, and bigger? They're going to be a bigger team, and they're not going to be at a huge size disadvantage, compared to the Nuggets? Jokic is going to all of a sudden, stop passing the ball or something? I don't.
Yeah, it's fun. The way we do this is kind of ridiculous. Like after Milwaukee won, we made Giannis the best player in the world. And the truth is, Giannis
I'm
really.
fine with that. I don't.
Well,
that's fine with me. Whatever.
I'm okay with it, but we got to people don't give proper context to it. Okay, Giannis won the finals because he got help from Middleton and Holiday. He wasn't getting enough help on his team. He finally got the help that he needed because at the end of the game, you can't really go to Giannis. You kind of have to go to Middleton because he's a mid-range shooter, which those are the shots that you're going to get at the end of games. So he finally got that help. Giannis was great, don't get me wrong, and they won the title. The only difference between Jokic this year and the past 3 years is just that Jamal Murray's healthy. That's the reason that they're in the finals. He's not playing any better.
Right. And by the way, can we, bring Giannis, that's a really important point, okay? When people were saying Giannis was the best player in the league the last couple years, okay, they were conveniently ignoring his shortcomings, okay? Which is, again, that's fine, okay? Because there's no player that's like, outside of like LeBron or something, there's no player that's perfect, okay? You can be the best player in the world and not have zero flaws in your game. You can have flaws in your game. That's okay. So if we're going to do it with Giannis, then I don't want to, if the Nuggets end up winning the championship and Jokic keeps playing this way, I don't want to hear, well, he's not good enough on defense. He's won 2 MVPs. He's going to average a triple-double throughout the playoffs. Okay? He's like, again, you can debate this however you want, but if you're going to say he's not the best player in the world, don't give me this crap about, well, he's not good enough on defense. Magic Johnson wasn't great on defense. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, if he was playing today, he would have big problems because he wouldn't be able to move quickly enough on defense. Because back when he was playing, it was just, you're battling centers that are back to the basket, and it's in the post, and right in the paint. You don't have to
Well,
try to
and to
but,
to your point, people had no problem saying Steph Curry's the best player in the league, but the guy is terrible on defense. Like,
exactly.
let's just be honest about it. But
so I don't want to hear those fucking arguments anymore. It's really ridiculous. If you're doing that, first of all, you're playing to the cameras and you're just trying to be provocative or whatever. But also, you're being completely ridiculous, and you're promoting a standard that is completely unattainable for 99.8% of players. I mean, it's just, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so it just kind of blows my mind with Jokic that people can't figure out that, wow, when he has an actual legit roster on him. And here's the other thing, Clark. People act like it's the same Denver team. The Denver team in the bubble was not anywhere near this good. Okay, if you remember, the problem with Denver back in 2020 playing against the Lakers was, are these other guys going to make shots? You're counting on Paul Millsap and Mason Plumlee and Jeremy Grant and Monty Morris and Gary Harris. You're counting on all these guys to make shots, okay? And they couldn't get, they weren't good enough against the Lakers. But look what happens. You give Jokic, a legitimate roster. You get Jamal Murray healthy and even better than he was, and this is what you get. So it's just kind of like, to me, it's obvious. This is how the sausage is made. I don't know why everyone just ignored it for the however many years. So
well, I mean, again, yeah, we could go on about this forever, but I mean, again, it's one of those things where it's like, I understand that people, like, for instance, I can understand you want the Lakers to be the best team, or you want the Warriors to be the best team. Like, I understand, that's fine, but I mean, it was hilarious to me that the Lakers, they make a few moves. They definitely improve their team massively compared to what it was. But it's like, we haven't seen them play in the playoffs. LeBron's coming off this foot injury. Anthony Davis, is he going to stay healthy? Is he going to be consistent enough? And it's just like, meanwhile, Denver is like, what do you want them to do? Like, do you want them to win 73 games? Like, what? I don't understand. What do you when the Warriors won, a bunch of games the first year, people were like, yeah, I don't know if they're going to win the championship. We haven't seen them do it before. I'm like, okay, I guess I can understand that to an extent, but I just, it's people just like to conveniently ignore stuff, and they just sort of like to go, well, I'm watching that, but I don't like it, or I don't agree with it, so I don't think they're going to win.
Yeah. So let's talk about the finals for a few minutes here. So look, Miami lost game 1. I mean, you texted me, you were a little, I thought you were a little over the top. You told me we should print the shirts that, this is done. And, listen, I do think, I think Denver will probably win the series, but I didn't see anything in game 1 that made me go, oh God, the Heat have no shot. I think that Denver could have played better. Like, they probably played, like what I heard, they probably played a B game. They probably could have, if they play their A game.
They didn't play really well. I was hearing that a lot after game 1, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, they didn't play great, but they also kind of slacked off in the fourth quarter. You heard Michael Malone talk about it. We just gave up this run for no reason. So it was a game where it was kind of like, I felt like the Heat were kind of sleepwalking a little bit. I think there was definitely some carryover from the Boston series. What I said to you was, going from playing the Celtics to playing Denver is a whole different animal. Going from a team who's trying to figure out what they're doing on offense to a team that is a well-oiled machine on offense, that's a different animal. I thought that Miami did a good job generating open shots.
Yeah.
They didn't make as many of them as they needed to, and Miami didn't attack the basket enough. They only shot 2 free throws, and I think those are the things that are probably going to change as we go forward. I think Miami will be more aggressive and try to attack Jokic more on defense. And I don't think Jokic is bad on defense by any means, but he's not a great rim protector. He's not a great shot blocker. Yeah. That's not necessarily a strong suit. And I think that's what if you're going to beat Denver, I think you have to attack that, and you've got to get to the basket, because Denver just gets so many easy baskets. and
Yeah.
that's why they're going to wear you down, because over 6 or 7 games they're just going to get better shots than you are, and
Yeah.
that's what makes it
Yeah,
really
I mean, I guess
difficult.
maybe my biggest concern from the first game is that I'm watching it and it just never really felt like Miami was in it. You know, even when they
Right.
got it down to 9, I just kind of felt like I got, So again, it's one game, so yeah, I don't want to overreact, but I will say that, like, you know, can we in the NBA playoffs, can we stop doing this where the home team wins game 1 and you're like, oh, they didn't do anything. There's nothing we can take from that game. They're the home team.
Right.
They're supposed to win. Stop. Okay. Like, no, you you can watch the game and glean different things from it and try to figure out what might happen in game 2 or what adjustments each team might make. So don't give me that oh, well, you're supposed to win your games at home, as if getting up 2-0 in a series, winning both your home games doesn't matter or something. Yeah, teams come back from down 2-0, but you massively improve your chances of winning the series if you get up 2-0. So, yeah, we can take stuff from teams winning their home games. I understand they're supposed to do it, but do they always do it? Did Boston win their first 2 home games against Miami? No. So yeah, let's. That's a type of take about NBA playoff games that I don't like.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think there's things that can be taken. I don't think there's a major, for me there's not a major takeaway from that. I thought Denver kind of did what they do, and Miami's trying to figure out how do we play
Yeah,
against
they
this
got to
team. If I
deal
was
with the
a
size disadvantage, and they
right.
got to figure out exactly what they're doing. You know, I don't know. It's tough because that's one of the things that's tough with NBA playoff games is, like, you don't. Sometimes it's tough to tell, like, how locked in are both of these teams.
Right.
Because you don't want to overreact if one team is kind of not really giving you their best. Because if it looks like one team's giving you their best and they're getting beat, then you're like, okay, we're in trouble. So yeah, it was kind of hard for me to tell. Was Miami really, you know? And then there's the whole thing where I guess Jason Timpf was talking about this and some other people were talking about it. It's like Denver kind of makes you look bad on offense because they're so tough to deal with on offense that you're tired and then your legs aren't really with you and then you're missing threes, wide open threes, which they missed plenty of those. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. Again, I picked Denver to win the series. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I really don't think I am. And there was nothing that I saw in game 1 that's going to dissuade me from the idea that Denver's the better team and Denver's going to win the series. So, did I overreact a little bit? Yeah, I think the Heat can probably play better. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't. They were asking this question on the Dan Patrick Show: is it more likely this series is a sweep or 7 games? And I don't think either one's probably going to happen. But I will say I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I think, Miami has a game where they shoot a little bit better, and they get Butler's being aggressive, and I just Denver's not. Listen, I think Denver's the best team. They are far from flawless, though. There are some defensive holes that they've got. There are some issues that we've seen teams kind of exploit a little bit. So I just I do, like, if I'm a Heat, if I'm a Heat fan, I'm not freaking out about that game. I do think our team's got to play better. Um, but yeah, I still think it's going to be a fun series. I think that I understand if the TV ratings aren't insane, but I don't really care. I think this is a basketball. People who love basketball are going to love this series.
Right.
So let's talk about the off season a little bit. There's a lot of stuff I've been hearing about the Celtics, and everyone. I feel like people are kind of misunderstanding, like, how things work, how NBA contracts work, and the way that things are done these days. So after that game, of course, Jaylen Brown takes the brunt of the criticism because he had 8 turnovers in the game and looked pretty bad. And so then it just turns into this thing. Well, do you re-sign Jaylen Brown? What do you do with blah blah blah? How are we supposed to? And I'm just hearing a lot of people. Well, that's too much money. You can't pay him that much money. So there's a couple things. Number one, for the next 2 seasons, the Celtics they're still not in. It's not a disaster with their contracts. Like next year, Tatum and Brown will still be under their current deals, so there's nothing going up there. The year after that, Jaylen Brown will be on the supermax, but Jason Tatum won't be yet. So they've got 2 more seasons left to try to, win the title. Like this is not. We don't. Number one, they don't need to just cut bait or make this whole. Decide this right this minute. Like, which is just the kind of the thing that I think everyone jumps to. Well, they got to figure it out now. They don't really need to. Like, they have some time. If they figure it out before the season starts again, they'll be fine. The other thing is that it's too much. It's too much money. You can't pay them that. Okay, it's not too much money. First of all, this is what these guys are going to be worth. Like JJ Redick was saying it on First Take. You want a guy who can play like Jaylen Brown, that's second team All NBA, that can do all the stuff he can do. This is what $50 million per year is going to be the going rate. That's what it is. And these franchises, the Phoenix Suns were just sold for over $4 billion. It's not a lot of money to these owners. Don't act like $50 million is the end of the world. They have the money. It's not, oh my God, it's too much money. The other thing that I think there is this is a little bit more accurate is, oh my God, with the new salary cap rules, you can't have this on your team. And what I would say to that is salary cap's going up $10 million for next season. It's going to go up $10 million the year after that. The TV deal comes in 2025, right? So there's not going to be a cap jump like there was in 2016, but it's still going to go, the amount of money they're going to get from these TV deals, it's going to go up at least another $10 million. So signing guys up to these contracts now is going to be incredibly valuable. And if I'm the Celtics, the best decision here is pay Jaylen Brown the max, okay? And let this go. Let's see what happens next year. And if you want to trade him at some point, you can. And don't tell me, oh, well, once you give him the contract, you're screwed. No, you're not. You're not screwed giving a good player a big contract.
Yeah.
The problem is when they can't play or they're old or, there's that kind of stuff. That's a problem. When Kawhi Leonard is getting $50 million a year, that's a bit of an issue, right? Because you're not going to get as much for him, So right. I don't think we're freaking out about this now. I do disagree with the Celtics bringing back Mazzulla. I understand they want to keep continuity and whatever, but this isn't a job that you're going to grow into. They're ready to win now. You got to know what you're doing. We're going to wait for this guy to figure it out. That's the only thing I don't like that the Celtics did. But I'll let you comment on all that stuff I just said.
So I just... To me, the overriding thing with the Celtics, to me, is, with any team that you want to be a championship contender, you need to make sure that your players are free to do what they're best at, and you need to try to take steps to cover up their weaknesses. So Giannis, you can't go to him at the end of the game. Well, you needed Middleton to be making shots. The Warriors, you need Klay Thompson there, and you need some other good defenders because Steph's not a great defender.
Right.
The Nuggets, Jokic, not a great rim protector, but you surround him with the players they've surrounded him with, and he can be, this great offensive engine. And then his defense is a problem, but it's not as bad because you've got these other guys that can help make up for it. So the Celtics, Tatum and Brown, you don't really want them initiating the offense. They're really good scorers and they can play really good defense. They need to be free to do that, and you need to have the team around them set up for them to do that. Now, does that mean they need to change some of the players around them? Maybe. I don't know. Definitely there's a coaching issue too, I think, that needs to be addressed, where you need to have the right system and you need to have these guys in the right position to succeed, because right now I don't think that's the case. And I think that's why that's part of the reason Miami is able to be competitive with them the last 2 years, because you can exploit how disorganized they are on offense, especially in critical moments at the end of games. So, you don't need to get split up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You need to create a system for them that fits what their strengths are and helps cover up what their weaknesses are, so you don't end up in a bad situation where they're dribbling the ball off each other's feet, or they're throwing they're getting turnovers, or people are stealing the ball from them. You got to set them up in a position to succeed. So yeah, they should give those, they shouldn't break those two guys up. I mean, how are you going to find somebody else like that? And I will say this, to be honest, a lot of the people who are saying that they need to break them up are sports media personalities who are not getting paid to give you unbiased, rational, 30,000-foot view advice. They're just there to react and then be ridiculous, to an extent. So yeah, of course they're going to say trade Jaylen Brown when it's like, for what? And they don't even have to tell you for what. They can just say, you need to trade this guy. Joe Mazzulla, like, not keeping him, I understand that more just because of, what we watched during the playoffs, where it just seems like he's out of his depth. He doesn't know what he's doing. So, and that's a situation where, I guess Brad Stevens this guy's kind of a protege to him, and so he doesn't want to bail on it. So, I guess, but I mean, it's just kind of like, the coaching really matters, and it's like you said, they're ready to win now, and it's not even so much that you're worried about Tatum and Brown getting old, because they'll probably be good for the next 7-8 years. But I do think some of the guys around them, maybe you got to be a little bit more concerned, especially because before you pay both of them the supermax, you can afford to keep these guys around them. So, and these guys around them, let's be honest here, we can criticize things, but they did make the finals last year, and they made the conference finals this year, and they made it to Game 7. So they're still really good.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing what would concern me as a Celtics fan is the Celtics got worse from this year to last year. Yes. Or last year to this year, excuse me. In the past year, they've gotten worse. So that's what would bother me about it, and the fact that I don't like Mazzulla's philosophy, where it's just like, we got to get the most important thing for this team is 3-point attempts. We just have to get up. We got to get up as many threes as we can, and it's like that's great. That'll win you a lot of regular season games. But we've seen it now. Like, when it gets to the playoffs, there's a lot of flaws in this system, and when they don't move the ball well enough on offense, they start walking it up. And now, if they're not going to play defense at an elite level, it just leaves a lot of holes on the team.
Some of it is that Tatum and Brown, they need to, like, a criticism of them, they need to take more mid-range shots, and they need to make that an efficient shot for them. Because in the playoffs, I'm not saying you got to shoot it all the time, but in the playoffs, that matters. You're seeing Denver take mid-range shots,
Yep.
So Bam was taking a bunch of mid-range shots in Game 1 of the finals. So yeah, like, I think that's something that that team needs to address, because this whole, like, you can't, analytics are important, but you can't take them to the nth degree, okay? Because it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I just feel like Boston gets stagnant. I feel like they take too many pull-up threes. They don't work and pass the ball to get a good shot enough. They're capable of doing it. They just don't. That's not what they fall back to when things get difficult. And so it just kind of bothers me. But it was striking in the first game of the finals to watch us and just go, oh yeah, look at that, a team that knows how to run an offense. And it's just like Boston's got, and Miami tried to play zone, and Denver's like, oh, okay, so we're going to go to Jeff Green against a small guy, and he's going to lay the ball in. It's like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do against a zone. And it's just like, man, like, if I'm the Celtics, I'm sitting there going, well, if I'm Philadelphia or Boston, I'm sitting there going, man, what the hell? Like, really? We couldn't get to the conference, like, Philadelphia couldn't even get to the conference finals, and Boston's got to be going, we couldn't beat this? Like, this is what, like, Miami was in every critical game in the fourth quarter, they're playing zone, and Boston can't do anything against it. It's just, So yeah, it's just kind of like, man, the difference between like it just kind of shows, man. Some like I don't feel like I think people have overrated Boston for 2 years now. They think they're way closer than they actually are. Um,
Yeah.
the other thing is I wanted to talk about Denver. Like you brought this up how everybody's like talking about the offseason. Well, what if Phoenix makes this move and that move, and this team makes this move, and the Lakers, if they re-sign these guys, like look out. And again, we're missing the team. The team that you really need to be careful of is right in front of your face. And so let me just give you the data, Clark. So Denver has Nikola Jokic and Michael Porter Jr. signed up for the next 4 seasons. Okay. For the next 2 years, they have all 4 of the guys, Porter, Jokic, Murray, and Gordon, all signed up, for the next 2 years. They're all under 28 years old. They're going to have Contavious Caldwell-Pope next year. Bruce Brown may be the only guy that they lose. Maybe, but we'll see what happens.
Replace him in the free agent market, find somebody
right.
else.
Maybe it's just like, hey, I'll take the mid-level exception. Maybe they keep him. I don't know. So that's the only thing they have to worry about is like their 7th man. So it's like, I just everyone's trying to make an argument for other teams, and it's like, guys. Like Denver, like and everyone's complaining about the new CBA and oh man, the punitive when you get over the second apron and blah 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 and you're signing guys. Denver's all set. Like they got these guys signed up, and so for the next couple years, Denver's still going to be able to add players that other teams won't be able to because with the cap going up, Denver's just going to have the space that these other teams aren't going to have. The Lakers, as an example, they're going to have I don't know that they can sign Hachimura and Austin Reeves because it's going to get to the point with this where you're going to have 2 guys if you have 2 guys on big contracts, it's going to be really hard to have a third one or a fourth one and have that kind of roster. So the Lakers have got that problem. Golden State's got the issue, well, is Draymond going to opt in? Is he going to opt out? Are they going to have to give Clay a new contract? They still got Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins on high salaries. They had, maybe the highest payroll, without they're way over the second apron, even without doing anything. So it's, it just kind of like, it's crazy. Like I feel like we're going to talk about this. Like assuming Denver wins a series, that's what we're going to talk about. Everybody's going to be like, oh wow, well, we're going to get to game 6, and after Denver wins, people are going to be like, oh wow, the next day, oh geez, have you looked at this team for the next couple of years? It's like, we're all going, yeah, duh.
Well, and I wasn't as familiar with Denver during the regular season, but like, when Phoenix made the trade for Durant, I was like, man, they gave up a lot of perimeter defense and shooting. And I'm like, okay, they're not winning it this year. And they didn't. And by the way, they really should have lost that series in 5 games if, Devin Booker wasn't just completely on fire for a couple games there. So, but now, people were like, well, they need another guy. You need one more guy? Really? Only one? Really? Okay, because, Booker and Durant, they're taking a bunch of pull-up jump shots and stuff. You're not winning a championship that way. Where's the easy baskets going to come from? Where's the size to deal with a team like Denver or the Lakers? Golden State, I mean, when Colin was talking about, because someone said on a podcast that, hey, maybe LeBron would go to Golden State. That's not winning the championship. Yeah. LeBron and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and did you guys watch the play? It's just so hilarious to me that the collective amnesia that the sports media always has about the playoffs. They never remember what happened 5 minutes ago. It's like, well, did you see what happened to Phoenix in the playoffs? What are you talking? I don't know. The Lakers just got swept. Yeah, but all the games are close. They got swept. Okay, and then you're trying to. For people trying to sell me on the Lakers, okay, LeBron's going to be another year older, okay? He's proven he can't stay healthy anymore. It's not his fault. He's just got there's so much mileage that it's just very difficult for him to stay healthy. Anthony Davis, he magically was healthy in the playoffs, which they've been fortunate whenever that does happen, So Even if he's healthy in the playoffs, he's inconsistent. He's proven that. Okay. LeBron's jump shot, maybe it comes back, I don't know, but LeBron's jump shot just seemed to kind of it just vanished into thin air. Like he couldn't make things at a very efficient rate. And also, he can't summon the, I mean, in game 4, he basically went, balls to the wall in the first half, and then he was exhausted in the second half. He can only give you greatness in like spurts. So I don't understand why I'm supposed to all of a sudden be like, oh, well, when Denver, as you're just saying, those guys are under contract, they're all in their, that's how you win multiple titles. Okay?
Right.
You got the team constructed the right way, they're in their prime, they're under contract. That's how you win. I'm not saying they're going to, but it looks like they're set up to do that. And these,
Right.
because
And
all
they're
these
the
other
only
teams, like, yeah, go ahead.
they're the only team that's set up to do that. Like they're really as we speak right now, they're the only one. Now things could change. Give it another month and we'll see who's on what team. But Phoenix ran into the problem where two guys they were counting on basically cratered. I mean, DeAndre Ayton completely fell apart. They're probably going to trade him because he was getting benched. Like they couldn't even play him, and he was healthy. Chris Paul got injured. Of course, Chris Paul. That's how the way that's going to work.
He's too old now, guys. You can't. He's not
Right.
going to be like a really elite player anymore. It's just not going to happen. By the way, he's a Hall of Famer, awesome player. Really liked watching him all these years, but I mean, come on, guys. He's too old now.
Yeah, so Phoenix ran into some trouble, and it's just those are going to be hard things for them to solve because they don't have a lot of flexibility with the team that they've got, which makes it kind of difficult. The Lakers are kind of under the same. They're dealing with the same issues. If you're trying to re-sign some of your main guys right now, that's hard. That's hard to do the way that all this stuff is structured right now. So I think that this is not a one-off team. Denver is legit, and they got a chance to go on a run here. And look, they've got everything you want, right? They've got, like you said, they got players in their prime. They got the main two guys that they're basically that tandem of Jokic and Murray is no one's been able to really stop it at this point. These guys have been able to play together. Jokic and Murray have played together for 7 years. Right? They've now got two or 3 years with Gordon and Porter together. Like this is a team that is going to be difficult to beat, and they're probably going to get better. Like this is not a team that, oh my God, if they're gonna fall apart. No, they're probably going to continue to get better. So I just I liked what I liked how you brought that up this week. That the way that people have been talking about this.
Yeah, and
just kind of doesn't make a lot of sense.
I understand if you're a Lakers fan or something and you want to, fine, go ahead, talk yourself into stuff. But to act like it's an objective thing and also to just completely discount Denver as if, well, I mean, they beat Minnesota, and then, I mean, the Suns, they just put them together, and the Lakers, I mean, they just put them together at the trade deadline, and they get to play Miami in the fun. You know what? I'm really sick of that bullshit where people are going to say, well, you get to play some bad team in the finals. Okay, fine, Lakers fans. Are we going to criticize the Lakers for being able to beat the Nets and the 76ers in back-to-back years in the finals? Like, I mean, the Spurs got to play the Cavs and the Nets in two of their champions. Oh, and the Knicks. Okay, in three of the years they won championships. So we're going to criticize them for that. Like, what? Are we going to take credit away from LeBron for beating the Heat in the bubble? Like, what are we doing?
Well, and I would go the other way. I think Denver's had a more difficult road than Miami has. Like that's my opinion. Denver had to play. Listen, Minnesota's a really talented team. Okay, Phoenix had two guys like shooting the lights out.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they're playing the Lakers, who the Lakers are one of the few teams that are actually big enough to cause them some problems. Now, Jokic beat the hell out of Anthony Davis, but it's like Anthony Davis is a great defensive player. It's not an argument.
Yeah.
He's one of the greatest defensive players of all time, and Jokic was destroying him. Mm-hmm. So this isn't, I mean, you look at Miami, like they beat Milwaukee, but Giannis missed, 3 of the games. So Miami did something great to beat them, but Milwaukee was not playing great when they beat them, and Giannis was missed some of the games. They beat the Knicks, which even Knicks fans know the Knicks aren't that good. And then they beat the Celtics, but the Celtics are doing what they do. So I would
go ahead.
No, I would argue Denver's road's been tougher.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is people are like, oh, this is a weird year. All right, slow down. Okay, it was a full season. All right, as opposed to I'm trying to remember because I think last year the season started at the right time, right?
Right.
After the bubble, because everything got kind of screwed up. Okay, so this year, totally normal off season, totally normal season. Okay, and then you can go, well, Milwaukee lost. Yeah, true, they did. Giannis got hurt, which he's gotten hurt before in the playoffs. We don't talk much about that, but he's gotten hurt multiple times in the playoffs. Chris Middleton is not the same player. They just had to change coaches. The makeup of their roster is probably going to be different to some extent next year. Philadelphia, they're getting a new coach. Harden, we don't know what's going on with that. Those two, and then also Boston, I guess they kind of probably look somewhat the same next year. But yeah, I just don't, people are acting like, oh, it's a weird year or whatever. It's like, okay, fine. The Lakers can start off the year with a roster that makes more sense and works well together. That's fine. You think Anthony Davis and LeBron are going to stay healthy the whole year? You think the Lakers are going to win 65 games? I don't think that's going to happen. So, yeah, could they be in a situation where they don't have to go into the play-in tournament to make the playoffs? Sure, but are they going to be the 1 seed? I don't really see that. So, in Phoenix again, they're still going to have holes with the roster. So, acting like next year is going to be demonstrably different, and some of the questions that you had this year are going to be answered next year, just seems a little ridiculous. When in fact, with some teams, there may be more questions next year than this year. So if you guys want to just try to keep taking credit away from Denver because you don't like them, whatever, fine. But don't try to act like you're being objective. You're not. You're really just being a fan of your team, or you're just saying that you don't like watching Denver.
Yeah, and this is a weird year. I mean, I think one of the arguments that I've heard around that is, well, Miami's an 8 seed, right? They're an 8 seed in the finals, and that by the way, as a fact, yes, that's accurate that they are an 8 seed in the finals. But this is not your normal 8 seed. Like the Heat were in the conference finals last year. They had the best record in the Eastern Conference, right? They were in the finals in 2020. Like this is not 8 seeds are usually like Minnesota. 8 seeds are usually teams like Toronto or Atlanta, right? Teams that have some talent but they can't really put it together. Like those are usually the teams that wind up as 8 seeds. So yes, while Miami is an 8 seed, it's kind of, what's funny is the 2 8 seeds, Clark, that have made the finals. It's a little bizarre, right? Because in '99 it was a strike shortened season, so the Knicks were the 8 seed, but they were only 6 games below the 1 seed. So it wasn't like, and the Knicks had played the Heat in the playoffs the past 2 or 3 years, so it wasn't like it was a surprise that the Knicks could beat the Heat. So it's kind of one of those things. Yeah, I get the weird year argument. My counter would be there's just not a generational team. And I think, getting into the, when the NBA with the new CBA, I think that's what the net effect of what this new salary cap structure is going to be, is that there's not going to be a team with 3 or 4 superstars on it. You're not going to have the Warriors with Kevin Durant anymore. You're not going to have the Heat with, the 3 guys anymore. That's going to be, I think that's what the net effect of that is going to be. So the only way that's going to, yeah, I'm fine with that. The only way that's going to happen is if a team drafts, Hall of Famers like Golden State did, and like it appears that Denver did. Those are going to be the teams. Like if a team gets, constructed like that, those are going to be the teams that could like go on a run. But yeah, right now the way the NBA is, it's just a little more spread out. It's a little more spread out. There'll be a super team at some point, but it's not right around the corner either. So
and I just
yeah,
wonder if a super team can win anymore, which I've said multiple times.
yeah,
I kind of don't think you can pull that off. You know, and the
yeah.
only
It's
reason
really
it
hard.
worked it worked with LeBron because he was in his prime. I mean, it worked with Golden State because there was a weird thing with the salary cap, and Kevin Durant is, really good. But other than that, it doesn't really. I mean, Brooklyn, if not for injuries, maybe it would have worked. But that's part of the problem, with a super team. You're one injury away from, Now, granted, just about any team can be one injury away from something else. But if you're a super team, one injury, you're done. Period. Like, it's not happening. So, yeah, it's just, it's just, for people listening, just remember that that we said this, and I'm probably going to be saying this throughout the offseason because I feel like the takes are going to come from everywhere but all these other teams, and no one's going to talk about Denver. So.
Yep. Well, this is our opportunity to talk about them since they're in the finals.
Yeah.
So before we preview game 2, did you want to talk about the Raiders?
Oh, I mean, I guess. So what's the deal now? So Jimmy Garoppolo failed his physical.
Yeah, so they gave him a new contract, and I guess his foot, with the foot that he broke against the Dolphins in the regular season, I guess it was not completely healed or not. There was something wrong with it, so they gave him this new contract, and then he had to have surgery on the foot again. And so that spurred on which just kind of dovetails into another topic, which you and I have talked about, is that spurred everybody on to go, oh, is Brady coming back? Like, oh, does that mean Brady's going to take over in Las Vegas because Garoppolo's not going to be able to play? Which that's a lot of fun. You know how much fun we have about talking about guys who are retired coming back.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, to me, and it's just it basically just goes back to, why did you guys get rid of Derek Carr? Like, what was the problem? You couldn't work that. Like, he's not like Jimmy Garoppolo, except he doesn't get hurt as much. To me it just seems like Josh McDaniels doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and he's probably going to be coaching the New England Patriots. He's going to be the offensive coordinator with the New England Patriots in a couple years because he's going to end up getting fired because they're not going to win anything. So it's just, I mean, because if Garoppolo gets hurt, which, do we even need to say if anymore? Can we just say when?
Well, he's hurt right now.
Yeah, exactly.
He's hurt right now.
So,
I mean,
who's their back? So with the Raiders, if you're going to do a season preview of them, you can't be asking, well, how's Jimmy Garoppolo? No. Who's their backup quarterback? How's he going to play for the 10 games that he plays or whatever happens,
Yeah, so it's totally true. It feels like, I mean, we went over this earlier in the football season about all the things that are wrong with Josh McDaniels. I gave you the whole resume, all the shit that went wrong in Denver, all the they gave him too much power and he just abused the shit out of it, so they had to get rid of him. And I feel like the same thing's going to happen here. There's no general manager that made that decision. Oh, let's get rid of Derek Carr and we'll give Jimmy Garoppolo a new deal. Nobody. That's a Josh McDaniels vehicle, 100%. That was his baby. He decided, I can't work with this quarterback. I want this guy that I can work with. And it's just like, you're the coach. It's your job to figure out how to work with a quarterback Derek Carr's pretty good. Like, yeah. I think that, so they're just like, we don't need him anymore. And they just cut bait and just get out of here. We don't need him. And so I think that I think if we haven't figured out by now, McDaniels doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He sucks as a head coach. And that's not me giving my opinion. That's a fact about what has happened to him in all the stuff he's been through as a head coach. He sucks. So I don't know what we're looking for here, but I made the joke to you. Watch the Raiders get the number 1 pick. Just watch. Get the number 1 pick. And then you made the joke. You're like, yeah, but he won't take right.
Not draft Caleb Williams or whatever. Yeah, right. Draft somebody else.
Yeah, he won't take Caleb Williams. He'll be like, no, he doesn't fit our system. You know what I mean? But we're going to win with Garoppolo. And then I made the joke, the Belichick joke. No, he'll trade down. He has the number 1 pick. They'll trade down. That's what they'll do. We don't need the number 1 pick. Sorry, we don't need Caleb Williams. We're just gonna, So, I feel bad. I feel like everybody should see this coming. I feel like it was kind of sitting there that McDaniels is not fit to lead your franchise anywhere. Anyway, but so look, I'm thinking, game 2 of the finals. I mean, I think the Heat are going to be more aggressive. I think Butler's going to be more aggressive about trying to get to the basket and try to attack Jokic on some more of those switches. And I think that I think Miami's going to give it a run. But that being said, if Denver plays well on offense, not great, they play well on offense, they're really tough to beat. And I said that before the playoffs started. I'm like, Denver plays well on offense, no one's beating them. Because nobody's got the firepower that they have, the way that their offense works. Jokic cannot shoot, and they're fine. So there's just not a whole lot of teams like that. But I will say, Denver being favored by 8.5 again. All right. I know. I realize Miami was the underdog in 6 out of the 7 games against Boston, which is just there's nothing that makes me laugh. Nothing I will look back on more fondly than the Celtics are favored by 8 in game 1 against the Heat. They lose. They're favored by 10 in game 2 against the Heat. They lose. They're favored by 5 against the Heat in game 3. They lose. I mean, It's just, what is happening? So anyway, I still think Miami makes it a run and makes it difficult, but they gotta really up their intensity.
Yeah, I'm struggling to think they can get it to 6 games, but we'll see. And the other thing I just had to say, and I thought this before the finals started. I was basically like, look, no matter what happens in the finals, this has been an awesome year. To play the way they did in the regular season and be in the finals it's insane. And the Jimmy Butler era this is way more than I expected from this. I didn't think they'd make the finals the first year. I didn't think they'd make the finals again. I didn't think they'd make the Eastern Conference Finals 3 times. I mean, so it's really an accomplishment. I mean, I know Miami's not going to feel that way if they lose the finals because they just want to win championships. But I'm not employed by the Miami Heat, so I can be a fan and just say that to me this is extremely impressive. So,
I think they the Heat do such a good job of just squeezing every ounce they can out of their roster, and it's really impressive. And I hope that there's some kind of I hope that there's a move out there that he can make to get them over the top. But yeah, this is this is a great run. This is one of the best, the last 4 years as a Heat fan. This is some of the best. This is probably the most fun time to be a Heat fan because they're just doing things that it's totally unexpected.
Yeah. I mean, beating Milwaukee twice, beating Boston twice,
right.
You beat Embiid with the Sixers.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And so listen, but I root with my heart. I don't root with my head. So I will be pulling for. But it's kind of fun to watch this series, because I'm rooting for both teams. So it's fun to watch this, and normally against the Celtics, I'm rooting against the Celtics. I'm hoping the Celtics miss shots. I'm hoping they screw up. I'm watching Denver. I'm I'm cheering about everything. Oh, they scored. Oh, they scored. Oh, they scored. So this is a really fun series for me.
And by the way, NBA fans, as you're watching, when you listen to Mark Jackson, if he starts talking about how great Nikola Jokic is, just remember that Mark Jackson, from what I heard, did not have Jokic on his MVP ballot. So just, I feel like that's an extra little tidbit you can laugh about. It's like, oh, really? He's this good, huh? Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not like Jokic would have won the MVP with that vote, so it doesn't.
No, I know. To me, it's just funny. It's
Yeah, it's great. It's great fodder for Denver to say nobody respects us. So
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
both teams get to play the nobody believed in us card, which is just awfully strange. Anyway, all right, let's enjoy the game tonight, everybody, and take it easy. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Everybody, take care.